In Taiwan, authorities fear drills are becoming reality. Taiwanese pilots scramble American-made fighter jets to practice responding to Chinese military incursions. Taiwanese soldiers practice defending their island from would-be Chinese invasion. Taiwan believes Beijing is preparing
in Venezuela. So where does China have a foothold? In Venezuela, another communist socialist country. It says, the head of U.S. Southern Command says Beijing is using disinformation and debt diplomacy to dig in as Maduro clings to power. So China has a foothold in Venezuela. Let's move on. It says, China is arming Venezuela Navy with anti-ship missiles. That's military. So again, why would China do that? Venezuela is an ally to China. And when you consider that Venezuela is in our region, they are the closest to America out of all the other communist nations. Venezuela is the closest. In other words, they have the potential to cause the most harm because they can launch a missile that can strike territory here in America. Let's look at another article. It says, U.S. mercenaries sentenced to 20 years for invasion attempt in Venezuela. Now, the men that were captured said that they were sent by the U.S. government. That's what they said. Now, the Trump administration has denied such allegations, but this took place back in August of this year, and many did not understand what's taking place. So in other words, they're saying the U.S. government let us, this was a secret mission to invade, and they had a mission to accomplish in Venezuela. Remember, the Trump administration was backing, what's his name? Juan Guaido, instead of Nicolas Maduro, who's the current leader of Venezuela. And this is all Bible prophecy. God has prophesied this. Notice what it says. Iran reiterates continuous military cooperation with Venezuela. Again, you're seeing a communist alliance with these nations. So who else is linked? We saw China's linked with them. Who else? Iran is linked with them. And what are they talking about? Military cooperation. Let's move on. Another article. I'm just showing you the connection, brothers and sisters, because when this invasion takes place, you very well could see all 5 nations here in America. And I know some of the individuals that shared dreams shared seeing Hispanic individuals on American soil when the invasion took place. They did say that. And that would be Venezuela. Look at another. Or it could be Bolivia, because I believe Bolivia is also communist. It says, Iran, Venezuela's close ally, proclaims U.S. can no longer control what's happening in the world. So in other words, they're saying America's foothold as superpower is lost. That's what they're basically saying, that America is no longer the superpower of the world. Well, let's see. It goes on to say, Venezuela jails 2 U.S. citizens over terrorist invasion. So now these individuals are in jail over attempting to invade Venezuela. I believe they were trying to take Maduro captive and also looking to blow up the power grid over in Venezuela. Notice here what it says. Another article. Venezuela says captured American mercenary plotted to blow up power plants and oil refineries. Now, if you're acting in the flesh and somebody invades your home and you're acting in the flesh, are you going to respond? Absolutely. So if America had, because Venezuela is already accusing America of invading. So what is Venezuela going to do in response? They're going to look to link up with their allies and do what? Invade America. It's a response. It's a retaliation. You hit me, I hit you back. Of course, in the flesh, as Christians, we don't respond like that. But we're talking about war here between nations. It says, Iranian arms fighters bolster Maduro government in Venezuela. So again, you're seeing a military alliance between Iran and Venezuela. So you're seeing this connection with Venezuela, and Venezuela is linked to the other 4 major communist nations. And that's one of the things that I learned this week, in the fact that Venezuela plays a major role, especially with all the other 4 nations. Notice here what it says. The United States seizes Iranian gas tankers en route to Venezuela after threatening to disrupt deliveries. So the United States seized, this was in August of this year, 4 Iranian gas tankers. Venezuela's short on gas. And we have levied sanctions on almost all these nations that I'm discussing today: Venezuela, Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea. We've levied sanctions on all those nations over the last 4 years, all of them, under the Trump presidency. So war is on the horizon. Those sanctions are economic sanctions. Therefore, the next step is military. And the economic sanctions have been going on for years. So we have totally missed the economic warfare. And now the military is about to set in. Notice what it says. Russian Navy. Notice who's coming to the defense of Iran. Russian Navy seen escorting Iranian tankers bound for Syria. So who is protecting Iranian tankers now? Russia. When was this? October of this year, just a couple months ago. I'm sorry, just last month. We're in November. Or no, we're in December. So it was a month and a half ago. Notice what it says here. Another article, it says, Venezuela VP chief travel to Russia to deepen ties. So again, a connection between Venezuela. We saw China. We're seeing Russia. We've seen Iran. Who else? Notice here. It says, Vladimir Putin's Russia is propping up the Maduro dictatorship in Venezuela. So who's propping up Maduro? Russia is. And Russia's military is in Venezuela. Here it says, this is from March of this year. Russia confirms its military personnel are in Venezuela. Where are their military personnel? Is that a shorter trip for them to America if they're already in Venezuela? Absolutely it is. Much shorter trip for an invasion on American soil as opposed to traveling from Russia. So in other words, they're making their steps. They're already preparing for the invasion. It's just in steps. You're seeing this. Notice here, another article. It says, Venezuelan military to escort Iranian oil tankers. So now you have the Venezuelan military escorting Iranian oil tankers. Another article. It says, Venezuela jails American Citgo 6 oil executives. So you have 6 Americans that are in jail over in Venezuela that are connected to the company Citgo regarding oil. And this is really what part of that war, I believe, is. Some of that with concerning Venezuela has a lot to do with oil. A lot to do with oil when you talk about the Venezuela situation. Notice here another one, because again, oil is a major need in our market today. Without oil, nobody gets anything. You're not eating any food. You're not buying any clothes, any goods that's purchased. Oil is needed to supply whatever machine, whether it be a ship, whether it be a plane, whether it be a bus, whether it be cargo. The main, for any transportation, oil is needed. Oil is needed. Gas, car, truck, semi, you're going to need oil. It says, in the final days of the Trump administration, Venezuela resumes oil shipments to China. So again, we're seeing an economic alliance and military alliance between Venezuela and China, Venezuela and Russia, Venezuela and Iran. Well, let's see who came to the defense of Venezuela against America. Here it says, North Korea. North Korea, Venezuela forge cooperation agreements in military and technology. So you're seeing an alliance between North Korea and Venezuela concerning military. This invasion, brothers and sisters, is going to be a conglomerate of nations coming against America. That's why the Bible just uses the broad term of Egypt. It just means communist nations. In other words, it's more than just China and Russia. But those are the major players, because those are the 2 largest. Here it says, United States, Commerce amends National Security License Review policy for items destined to China, Russia, and Venezuela. So again, you're seeing the war being played out economically, and then very soon, it's going to be militarily. Well, what is China doing? China is now developing super soldiers. Notice what it says. China conducting biological tests to create super soldiers, U.S. spy chief says. To create what? Super soldiers. Now, Some of you may remember the video that we did concerning the East Coast invasion in New York, where the individuals shared dreams. And in the first dream in that video, there was a man that talked about these soldiers, and they were like super soldiers. They were like, doing bionic, things that weren't normal, that were almost supernatural, is what he said in the dream. And here we have China seeking to develop super soldiers. And that's exactly the same term the guy used. He said they were like super soldiers. They were like big, huge, and doing like unnatural things, jumping off of ships, not even needing a ladder. It says, China has conducted testing on its army in the hope of creating biologically enhanced soldiers, according to the top intelligence official in the U.S. John Ratcliffe is the U.S. spy chief who was speaking on this. So again, war is on the horizon, brothers and sisters. Again, this article is just from yesterday, Friday, December the 4th. Notice another. It says, beware China, Beijing developing intercontinental missiles that could reach the whole world. In other words, where they are able to fire a missile from China and it can reach over here to America. They're developing intercontinental missiles. China is developing intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBM, which could reach the whole world, the head of a NATO group has warned. Well, I'm going to show you from the Bible that communism is going to fall, that these nations are going to fall. They're not going to be successful. Though they will invade and wound America, this will be a serious wound upon America. They will not be able to conquer America. Notice what it says. USA furious at China flagrant violation over North Korea. So the United States stepped up its war rhetoric on China today and accused the nation of flagrantly violating its promise to uphold sanctions placed on North Korea. Now, this is just from a Wednesday this past week, December the 2nd. Again, today's December the 5th, 3 days ago. Another article. Here it says, Trump administration launches rewards program targeting North Korea and China. Targeting both these communist nations. Here another. Who came to the defense of Venezuela? North Korea did. North Korea defends Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. So again, you're seeing an alliance between all of these nations that I have on the board, these 5 nations. Here, from General Mark Milley, North Korea may stage provocations during U.S. power transition. So in other words, he's saying between November the 3rd and January, there's the potential for war. That's what he's basically saying. Between November the 3rd and January, there's the potential for war that North Korea may provoke. That's what he's saying. This is Mark Milley, the general of Joint Chiefs of Staff in the military. Another article. So he's given the warning. We better be paying attention. Here it says from earlier this year, October, actually just a month and a half ago, North Korea unveils massive new ballistic missile in military parade. A massive new ballistic missile. This thing it's being carried on an 11-axle truck. That's bigger than a semi in order to carry the missile. Notice another. North Korean missile and Kim Jong-un's Christmas gift decision. Last year, in December of 2019, Kim Jong-un promised America a Christmas gift. Could he have been referring to this year? God knows. The wise know. It's time, brothers and sisters. War is on the horizon. I won't give a date, but brothers and sisters, this man is promising America a Christmas gift. Mercy. And this is one of the most distracted times of the year for Americans, where they're buying gifts, they're spending money, they're feasting, they're eating, they're drinking. They're carousing. They're going to banquets. They're going to parties. When most Americans are completely distracted, here we are, we have war at our door.
Now, the Cold War is technically over. The continuous expansion and activity of NATO, the fact that NATO still exists, frankly, has been a thorn in Russia's side for 20 years. And that apparently is what is provoking Russia to announce today that it will be adding 20 new military units to its western border by year end. Now, the NATO Secretary General continues to appeal for dialogue.
Iran rearming Hamas with thousands of new rockets. The Iranian regime is giving Hamas resources to produce thousands of new rockets in the Gaza Strip, according to a new report in Tehran's state-controlled media. Israel is once again warning that it may have no choice but to preemptively attack Iran's nuclear facilities to prevent Tehran from developing nuclear weapons. And its air force is becoming more capable of executing such a challenging mission than ever before. In late April, Israeli Intelligence Minister Eli Cohen warned that a bad nuclear deal between the United States and Iran will send the region spiraling into war. Anyone seeking short-term benefits should be mindful of the longer term, he said. Israel will not allow Iran to attain nuclear arms. Iran has no immunity anywhere. Our planes can reach everywhere in the Middle East, and certainly Iran. Israel is already addressing this problem by developing external fuel tanks that will almost double the combat radius of its F-35s, making them capable of longer-range missions. It already has a lot of experience modifying its fighters in such ways. After all, Israel turned its F-15s into highly capable bombers long before the US, which originally used the jets solely as an air-to-air fighters in strict adherence to the mantra "not a pound for air-to-ground," developed the Strike Eagle. As a result, in the near future, Israel will be more capable than ever of carrying out its frequently repeated threat of preemptively attacking Iran's nuclear program if it believes Tehran is on the verge of developing nuclear weapons.
Netanyahu is playing with fire in Iran. If Israel really did seek revenge by strikes Iranian targets, then it's changed the unwritten rules of the unacknowledged game, which could have grave consequences. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed on Thursday an armed drone strikes in Israel earlier this week was sent by Iran, arguing in a meeting with German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas that Tehran bears responsibility for a series of recent strikes on Israel. The Prime Minister showed Maas the remains of the drone that was struck on Tuesday after crossing from Iraqi or Syrian airspace, announcing for the first time that it was an Iranian one. He further stated that Tehran fully supports Islamic Jihad in Gaza and provides all of its financing, as well as giving weapons to Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Later on Thursday, Netanyahu also met with foreign ministers from the Czech Republic and Slovakia and showed them the same drone. Israel has reported multiple drone launches by Hamas forces over the course of the fighting, including an explosives laden unit that was downed and fell on the launch squad in the Gaza Strip on Saturday, killing 2 militants.
Holding my